And now the four-time heavyweight champion of the world, Evander, the real deal, Holyfield.
Over the last 2 decades, Evander Holyfield has become the most celebrated, most respected ring warrior of his generation. His vast estate and regal mansion serve as tangible reminders of his immense boxing success. Despite his many achievements, the 40-year-old continues to endure the rigors of the gym and dangers of the ring in a quest for his 5th heavyweight title.
I want to end on a bang. I don't want to end on a low. So, as my career getting ready to end, I would like for people to say, I believe he could have went 10 more years.
October 4th, Showtime pay-per-view. That's the night I retire Evander Holyfield. I'm gonna knock him on his butt.
The flamboyant James Lights Out Tony has never lacked confidence. While he's earned the respect of boxing insiders, the fame he believes he deserves continues to elude him. 12 years ago, he was poised on the brink of the boxing elite, demolishing highly regarded middleweight champion Michael Nunn. Even with 66 wins and world titles in 3 weight classes, he's never achieved the fame he desperately desires. But a win against a preeminent heavyweight could thrust James Toney into the galaxy of superstardom.
We'll knock him out. Evander's gonna be on his back. Looking up at the stars. He didn't pay his electric bill, so his lights must go out.
Tonight, in the fight capital of the world, they come together. For the aging warrior, a loss could obliterate his dream of a 5th heavyweight title. And for the former middleweight, a win could finally bring him the glory he seeks. It's Holyfield versus Toney, next. As evening moves in on the city that lives by night, anticipation is in the air. Las Vegas is more than a vacation and entertainment oasis. It is the boxing capital of the world. As tourists and gamblers make their final preparations for the night's activities, 2 veteran ring warriors are readying themselves for battle. Fireworks are expected when former 4-time champion Evander Holyfield collides with cruiserweight king James Toney in a heavyweight showdown scheduled for 12 rounds. In the co-main event, 2 ex-champions clash with a title shot the prize when Joel Casamayor meets Diego Corrales in a 130-pound shootout, also scheduled for 12. And the card opens with WBO bantamweight champion Cruz Carbajal defending his title in a 12-round battle against Gerado Espinoza. We're on the Vegas Strip inside the Mandalay Bay Event Center, where the spotlight is on the ring and the crowd is headed for their seats to watch it all unfold. There's a sense of anticipation, of course, as well as curiosity to see how it all plays out this Saturday night in Las Vegas. Hello, everybody. I'm Nick Charles, and welcome to a star-studded night of boxing. This is a night when many questions hang in the air concerning our main event fighters. Evander Holyfield has done what nobody in the history of boxing has ever done: win the heavyweight championship 4 different times. However, Holyfield will turn 41 years old this month, and the looming question, of course, is can he get there again, or has time finally caught up with a fearless warrior? Meanwhile, there is much to speculate about Holyfield's opponent, James Toney. At age 35, he's rejuvenated his career, but Toney comes here wanting more, much more. This can be the night he turns promise into reality and slams his way into the heavyweight picture and the riches that would follow. I'm joined tonight by a wealth of colleagues as anxious as I am to watch these fights. So let's get started now and go ringside where Steve Albert and Al Bernstein are standing by.
All right, Nick, thank you very much. Here we are. We made it. This one really has the elements of a crowd pleaser. in addition, there are consequences. Tell us about the risk factors for both Holyfield and Tony.
You know, that one of the charms of this event is that as a standalone fight, it's going to provide a lot of excitement for people tonight. But as you point out, there are ramifications. For Evander Holyfield, a loss to a cruiserweight champion would certainly end his marketability as a possible heavyweight drawing card. But if he wins, he may be looking at a chance to fight for the IBF title, maybe against Roy Jones Jr. or the winner of the Hasim Rahman-David Tua fight. For Tony, a little less risk in that if he loses, he can go back down and potentially dominate the cruiserweight division. But if he wins, he would like a rematch with Roy Jones Jr. and, dare I say it, a fight he has always dreamed about. Could he lure Mike Tyson back in the ring? That's also something he would fantasize about.
All right, I can see some eyes rolling already, but it would be a very marketable fight indeed. An intriguing matchup here, Holyfield versus Tony. Before we get it back upstairs, let's take a look at the action from the weigh-in earlier this week. James Toney making his heavyweight debut.
217 pounds for James Lights Out Tony. 217 pounds.
And then came the always chiseled Evander Holyfield.
219 pounds for Evander Holyfield. 219. 219 pounds.
There it is. Now Tony's weight raising concerns over his conditioning should the fight go to the later rounds, and could it affect his speed and quickness? We'll see later in the main event. Right now, let's get it back upstairs to Nick Charles.
Thank you, Steve. And joining me now is my Showbox partner and pal, Steve Farhood. Steve, what a pleasure it is to see a fight card with fight fans in mind first. No politics, not even a title at stake, just dynamite matchups.
Titles aren't what they used to be, Nick, so no problem there. What makes Holyfield Tony so interesting, these are not only household names, but future Hall of Famers. And they're willing to fight each other without a title at stake. Boxing doesn't have a lot of household names. These guys willing to take the step they need to get a title fight. This is a trend, I hope, continues.
Well, and there's more. Since the day they made tonight's co-feature, we've been saying Joel Casamayor against Diego Corrales is a stone-cold main event on its own. I love this matchup for two classic reasons. We'll see a destructive puncher in Corrales, and in Casamayor, slick, clever, lightning-fast boxer.
Well, this is one of those matchups fight fans want to see. Don't be surprised if Corrales, the puncher, if he doesn't get Casamayor out of there early, and Casamayor is a slow starter, so that could happen. Don't be surprised if there's a little bit of a role reversal in this fight, and if Corrales, who's so much taller, becomes the boxer, and Casamayor starts coming in.
So a fight card potentially on paper, good, flat out good for the game. Each guy has lost just once in Casamayor and Corrales. It cost them their titles, and they know the winner tonight is in line for another shot at a championship. We'll bring you Casamayor Corrales later in the night, but now let's go back to Steve and Al ringside for our opening bout.
All right, Nick and Steve, thanks. Let's get to it. Fight number one. Cruz Carbajal defends his WBO bantamweight crown against Gerado Espinoza in a matchup of two battle-tested combatants who follow in the long tradition of tough, hard-nosed Mexican fighters. The challenger in the ring, Gerado Espinoza out of Tijuana at just 22, looking to become the youngest world champion in boxing today. 16 when he turned pro in 97, so already a 6.5-year veteran, but that is not unusual for fighters from Mexico. And now, despite the youth of Espinoza, he's got a lot of experience.
Well, you mentioned already a 6-year veteran at 22, which is astonishing. He's fought some very good people. He's had a taste of the kind of competition he'll have with Cruz Carbajal. Rafael Marquez, who of course is one of the bantamweight champions right now, he lost to him, but fought well. He had a very good win over Omar Adorna, who was a Puerto Rican Olympian, and lost a fight to Jorge La Cierva, a top contender, but he fought very well in that one as well. So this young man at 22 knows what it's like to be in against top competition.
Tonight, though, may be his toughest test as he goes up against a tenacious little brawler who's been in there with the best, the champion Cruz Carbajal, seasoned pro of 11.5 years out of Veracruz, won the title March 02 with a 9th round TKO over Mauricio Martinez, won defense as former champion Danny Romero had to stop in the 4th with a swollen eye. He's won 5 in a row, 4 by knockout, but 11 losses on his record. Al, he may be one of the best 11-loss fighters you'll ever see.
He really is. It's actually a great story for boxing in a sport where 1 or 2 losses sometimes dooms you to obscurity. We don't see champions with 11 losses, but we should, and he's a perfect example. These 5 straight wins you talked about, it not only brought him a title, it brought him a spectacular win over Danny Romero, and it showed that he is certainly one of the 2 or 3 best bantamweights in the world. That's what this fight is all about, Steve. They want to show the world that he's great.
A true illustration of the term records do not tell the whole story. Lately, he has never been better. As we check the numbers, biggest disparity in age, Espinoza 7 years younger than Carbajal. 4-inch height advantage Espinoza, but an oddity of sorts as Carbajal has the edge in reach. At the weigh-in, both checked in right on the money. And the key rules for this title fight: no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. A fighter cannot be saved by the bell in any round. If an accidental headbutt occurs before the end of the 4th round, the fight is ruled a no decision. If it happens after the end of round 4, they go to the scorecards. So here at the Mandalay Bay Event Center, getting ready for the WBO Bantamweight Championship, which features Cruz Carbajal and Gerado Espinoza, we are set for the formal introductions from our ring announcer, Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you, and we welcome you to the beautiful Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino here in Las Vegas, Nevada, as we have a big night of action in store for you. It's the War on October 4, and it's all brought to you by Goosen Tudor Promotions in association with the Mandalay Bay, the undisputed king of beers, Budweiser, and Showtime. This bout coming away is sanctioned by the WBO, the president Francisco Valcarcel, the supervisor Luis Batista Salas. This is along with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Introducing to you our 3 judges scoring this bout from ringside. From Las Vegas, Nevada, C.J. Ross. From Providence, Rhode Island, Clark Sammartino. And from Las Vegas, Nevada, Dalby Shirley. And the third man to the ring, the referee in charge of this action. He'll be working in his 60th world title bout, Robert Byrd. All right, fans, here we go. 12 rounds of boxing scheduled for the WBO Bantamweight Championship of the World. Introducing to you first the challenger on my left. He is fighting out of the blue corner, wearing light blue trunks with white trim, joining us from Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. His weight right at the bantamweight limit of 118 pounds. His record stands at 27 wins, 4 losses, with 25 big wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, he is ranked the WBO number 10 junior featherweight in the world. Introducing the challenger, Gerado Locomotora Espinoza. And his opponent across the ring on my right, fighting out of the red corner, is the defending world champion, wearing green trunks with black and silver trim, hailing from Veracruz, Mexico. He weighed in the same weight as his opponent, 118 pounds. His record stands at 23 wins, 11 losses, 1 draw, with 19 wins coming by way of knockout. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, he is making the 2nd defense of his title. Here is the defending WBO Bantamweight Champion of the World, introducing Cruz Carbajal. Once again, Robert Byrd is our referee in charge.
You guys need to interpret. You can't tell them. Get your instructions in the dressing room. When I say stop, that means stop whatever you're doing and give me a clean break. When I protect yourselves at all times, obey my commands at all times. Let's do it. Hang on, right? Stay right here. Stay right here.
A pair of fighters from a country that dominated the bantamweight division in the 70s with knockout artists like Carlos Zarate and Alfonso Zamora. Carbajal with an extraordinary reach for his height, yet he usually elects to fight inside and go toe-to-toe. Espinoza, who feels he's stronger at 118 after campaigning a notch higher, had better try to make this an outside fight. Otherwise, it could be a tough night in this, his first world title shot. Here we go, round 1. Scheduled for 12. One noticeable thing for Espinoza in the blue trunks, a pronounced cheekbone. However, he hasn't had a history of cuts. In a nutshell, Carbajal, a very busy, aggressive brawler. Carbajal in the green with the black trim. He's got the long arms, a very sturdy chin. Espinoza, more of a tactician, more of a technical boxer who looks to wear you down. Both, though, polished fighters with tremendous heart. And there should be no question of Carbajal's focus. His last fight had no title implications, yet he destroyed the fearless Ghanaian Steve Dotse in 2 rounds about 6 months ago.
Both these boxers have been known to ignore defense and throw caution to the wind. Certainly Carbajal has done that, Espinoza to an extent also. And so obviously what that sets up potentially is a very exciting fight.
Yeah, Carbajal extremely offensive-minded. As you pointed out, Al, defense not a priority, but he can bust you up. Nothing fancy, doesn't play games, but he is very spirited and feisty, keeps a good pace, terrific determination, but he'll stand right in front of you. He loves to brawl, always willing to exchange. You won't see a lot of quick movement side to side out of Carbajal.
It's a combination punching from Espinoza and ripping the left hooks. And he has a good one, but boy, so does Cruz Carbajal. And there's a weapon that Carbajal usually uses, and that is the uppercut. So Espinoza giving Carbajal a taste of what he normally dishes out.
So a nice start for the challenger. Espinoza wearing the powder blue with the white trim. Another right uppercut by Espinoza, now going to the body. He is cool and he is savvy at just 22. Well-schooled Espinoza. A straight-up classic stance. Not your typical Mexican brawler. He puts more emphasis on defense than Carbajal, but he does at times make himself available to be hit.
And if young Gerado Espinoza had drawn out, mapped out a first round that would work for him, Steve, I think it would look very much like what we've seen. He's been able to give a lot of good movement to Carbajal, counterpunch very effectively, and not get hit on the end of the punches of Carbajal.
And now this is a slower start than usual for the champion Carbajal, a faster start than usual for the challenger Espinoza.
There's the long right hand of Carbajal that is a pretty good punch for him when he can get it there.
So it's been the challenger, Espinoza, the aggressor here in round 1 as we approach the final 10 seconds. Locomotora, the locomotive, and he had a very impressive first round.
Alto. Time.
Cruz Carbajal presents a difficult style matchup for almost anybody, and that is certainly the case for Gerado Espinoza.
On the outside, Cruz Carbajal likes to use his jab to set up another big weapon. That would be a powerful right hand, but he can also fight on the inside, and there his uppercut is a lethal weapon. His offensive firepower may be the most versatile in the division. Gerado Espinoza can't afford to be lazy with his left. When he's on the outside, he'll get hit with a Carbajal right. He can throw some hooks, but they must be short. And his best chance against Carbajal is on the outside, boxing.
As we close in on round 2, scheduled for 12 for the WBO Bantamweight or 118-pound championship. Cruz Carbajal in the green trunks, the champion. Gerado Espinoza in the blue trunks, the challenger.
Never so early in the fight have we looked at the keys to victory and already seen some blueprint, because in round 1, Espinoza was doing all the things that we suggested he needed to do. He was moving very well, boxing, keeping the left hand up. He wasn't getting hit with the right hand. And you see, he is throwing those hooks, not real wide, short, so that he doesn't get countered by Cruz Carbajal.
Thus far, Al, Espinoza looking the sharper of the two. At 22, would become the youngest world champ in the game with a victory here tonight. The youngest reigning champs are all 24 years old. Alex Terra Garcia at welterweight, Manny Pacquiao junior feather, and Alexander Munoz, a junior bantam, and Jorge Arce, a junior fly. Meanwhile, Carbajal, who is off to a bit of a rugged start here against Espinoza, one of 5 reigning world champs with double-digit defeats. He's got 11 losses.
one of Carbajal's most impressive wins was against former champ Danny Romero, and he was brilliant in that fight. And we can see how different styles make it either easier or tougher for you. Danny Romero, a short fighter who wades in and was there for Carbajal exchange with. Espinoza, obviously very much a boxer, moving, counter-punching, and that style difference is giving Cruz Carbajal some issues.
Now Carbajal coming forward and laying some leather on Espinoza. All of a sudden, it looks like Carbajal got his wake-up call. A left hook to the ear by Carbajal.
Carbajal tonight, with his left hook especially, very imprecise. That punch is very wide. It's an arm punch, and it doesn't look like the same Cruz Carbajal that we have seen in some recent fights. We'll see if that changes. Although now he's getting to Espinoza a little bit better.
Carbajal ate a left hook just before, but you can see an increasing work rate suddenly here by Carbajal near the end of round 2.
And you know what's interesting? Even though he has 25 knockouts in his 27 wins, we see really Espinoza is not a dramatic one-punch knockout artist. He punches with decent power and wears people down.
That's his bag. Carbajal likes to wear you down too. As you mentioned, the Danny Romero fight, boy, he just swelled up that face. And in the second round, they just stopped the fight. But Carbajal was on the receiving end as well.
How about the shots? Romero, who's a very big puncher in this weight division, hit Carbajal with some astonishing left hooks, and he just stood there. So knocking him out's tough.
But I see a shift in momentum here in favor of Carbajal at the end of round 2. Our translator is Joe Guzman.
¿Cómo te sientes? ¿Cómo sentiste?
How do you feel? You okay? Breathe.
No, está bien así.
I'm okay.
No se moleste, campeón. No se moleste. No se enoje.
Don't get mad.
Bien. Estamos trabajando bien, trabaje bien. Eso es todo. ¿Sabe nada más uno? Mijo.
Cruz Carbajal can land a very good right hand over the lazy left, and there he did it. Espinoza kept his left hand low, and Carbajal, with that looping right hand, was able to get it in.
Vámonos.
Ahí descansa. No se conserva la campana.
Cruz Carbajal, who has had a dramatic transformation. Despite the 11 losses, his last several fights, victories, knockouts, the champion. Oh, look at him work. Carbajal all over Espinoza.
This is the kind of bout we anticipated. You know, as well as Carbajal is doing, look at the counter-punching by Espinoza. Yes. These are two really good fighters. Oh, the body work of Carbajal, too, exquisite.
Turning into a street brawl right now. Some terrific counter-punching by the challenger, Espinoza. Right hand over the top, just grazed the shoulder of Carbajal. Carbajal turning things around, not only in this fight, but in his life. With the thanks of his new manager, Valentin Martinez. He had a lot of money problems. In fact, to make ends meet, he was a butcher. So he worked like 10 to 12 hours a day, and now he's 100% dedicated to boxing, which is a big reason he's turned it around.
You can see they can both punch, and they can both get it done early. And both have landed very dramatic shots already. We know Carbajal has a great chin, and Espinoza is showing it to us again. There's the combination punching of Espinoza. You know, you alluded to Carbajal having those 11 losses, primarily because of what you suggested about the money issues. He had to take a lot of fights on short notice just to make money, and they ended up in losses. But now he takes fights when it's appropriate. He's 5-0 and has a world championship to show for that streak.
A late bloomer, to say the least.
Oh, good body work by Espinoza. This is a perfect example of two fighters both executing their game plans very well, and that's why it's such a scintillating fight.
We come up to the final minute of round 3, non-stop activity. Carbajal now forcing the action, pushing Espinoza back.
One of the things that has changed is the left of Espinoza continues to sneak lower and lower, and because of that, Carbajal is landing a lot of lead right hands.
Let's go.
Carbajal inspired by the legendary Salvador Sanchez. Beautiful combination upstairs by the champion.
Let's go.
Carbajal really finding the mark after a slow start. Back comes Espinoza with a right-left combination to the head, but not as damaging as Carbajal's blows. Another good right hand by Carbajal on the inside, where he loves to fight despite his long arms.
And you know, Espinoza using the uppercut very effectively. That's really Carbajal's best puncher, one of them, but Espinoza saw the opportunity to use it. Oh, look, wow, great exchange in the corner.
They are really trading, Al.
10 segundos.
The only difference could be Carbajal's power. His punches perhaps a bit more potent.
Give him some water.
Quiero que me hagas el jab bien hecho.
I want you to stick that jab. Keep sticking the jab right cross.
No forcejes. Él está yendo mucho al cuerpo. Él lee la pelea que va a hacer.
He keeps going to the body.
Hay que hacerlo.
You got to fight.
Al aire.
Keep breathing.
Sube los golpes. Sí, okay. He's pulling out the back head. No, I know. Yeah, I know. He's pulling out the head. Al aire. Acuérdate, dame doble jab.
Early in that last round, Carbajal setting up, trying to set up the right hand. And there, you see over the lazy left, he gets the right hand in to the head of Espinoza, one of many that got in, but of course Espinoza did some great counterpunching as well in that round.
Scheduled for 12 for the WBO Bantamweight title. It is round number 4. The champion Carbajal comes out winging. He's wearing the green. The challenger in blue is Gerado Espinoza. Carbajal 23-11-1 with 19 knockouts. Espinoza 27-4 with 25 KO.
You know, it's worth noting of those 31 pro fights that Espinoza has, only 3 have gone to a decision. He's either won or lost, the rest by knockout.
And he started out 18-0 with 17 knockouts before losing his first fight. Back in 2000, bounced back with a couple of straight TKO wins, but then lost to current champion Rafael Marquez by 4th round TKO.
Stop! The pressure of Carbajal has been relentless the last couple of rounds, and while Espinoza has counterpunched well, you have to ask yourself, will that pressure of Carbajal ultimately take its toll? And one of the other things about it is, part of that pressure has been some very good body shots, so of course we know that slows you down. And there's Carbajal committing to the body again.
The old boxing axiom, take the body then the head.
And a little later on when we see Diego Corrales and Joel Casamayor, good left hand by Carbajal, we'll see him go to the body.
Carbajal now marching Espinoza around the ring with rights and left.
And you know, ironically, Steve, you made the point. Yeah, he's not cutting the ring off. He's marching him around it, but he's still landing. Usually you don't land when you follow a guy around the ring, but Carbajal is doing that now. This might be his best round of the fight.
Well, he's looking very confident right now. I think he feels that he has Espinoza where he wants him now after the rugged start. Not so much a rugged start, perhaps just more of a feeling out process. Under a minute left, round 4. But every once in a while, as you have pointed out, some good counter-punching by Espinoza.
Yeah, it has become, though, less frequent in this round. In the last couple of rounds, he was doing a good job of counter-punching. Now he's mostly taking from Carbajal.
I think he's more tentative now, perhaps second-guessing, and the accumulative effect is starting to get to him, and the power of Carbajal is probably quite hurtful, as you can see.
There's the right hand again, the lead right by Carbajal. He has a long reach, and that's a punch that Espinoza has been susceptible to in the past, and that was the big danger coming into this fight, and unfortunately for him, it's still a problem.
No knockdowns here towards the end of round 4. Espinoza's been down 4 times in his career. Carbajal just twice.
Stop, I got to stop. Step. Step out, step out. Let's go. Bow, bow.
And Joe Guzman, our interpreter.
Okay, here's some water. Let's breathe. You're doing everything right, but just don't stay in there. Keep working. Work your hands. Stick your jabs. Stick your jab strong. Left, right. You're staying there.
Carbajal's reach, even though he's much shorter than Espinoza, playing a role. He lands the jab, and that sets up the right hand. But look at the combinations. Carbajal doesn't stop punching. And then at the end of the round, his best of the fight, Carbajal put an exclamation point on it with these combinations. When you follow a fighter around the ring like that, you're not supposed to be able to land those kind of combinations. But because of his reach, Carbajal can do that.
Interesting point. He's got a 69-inch reach, and he's just 5'3" and a half. Espinoza's left eye really beginning to swell. Well, this is reminiscent of a fight we were just talking about with Carbajal, but not quite as bad as of yet.
Yeah, the Danny Romero fight in which he swelled up Romero's eye because of the number of punches he landed. You know, for young Gerado Espinoza, only 22, you can see he's a very skilled fighter. He's a good fighter, and he had some excellent moments early in this fight. And the scoring there, the press row scoring, reflects what we think is happening in this fight, with Carbajal taking control of the action.
We've got the Orange County Register, the Chicago Tribune, and the LA Times represented here tonight. Minute into round 5. Cruz Carbajal, the champion of the green. Espinoza fighting back as best he can. The challenger in the blue. Third man of the ring, Robert Byrd out of Las Vegas.
Because this fight replaced another one on our pay-per-view card, they both had about a month to prepare for this. But Cruz Carbajal especially said, I'm always in the gym, I'm always in shape, and he's showing it here.
Yeah, originally the first fight tonight was to spotlight promising featherweight prospect Robert Gerado, but he sustained an elbow injury and a good save by replacing that fight with this one, a championship fight.
Stop.
Between Carbajal and Espinoza. And some good action.
Stop. Break.
And a big mission tonight for Cruz Carbajal was to show that he's not just a champion, but that he is a guy to be reckoned with in the bantamweight division. They think he could be the very best bantamweight or super bantamweight around, and he wanted to show that tonight, and so far he's doing a very good job against a good young fighter.
Yeah, he talked about perhaps moving up where more money can be made to fight people like Paulie Ayala or Johnny Tapia, because Tapia would have to then move back down from 126. Instead of a showdown with IBF champ Rafael Marquez, or perhaps a rematch with Danny Romero.
I'll tell you what, I'd pay big money to see Cruz Carbajal against an Ayala or a Tapia or somebody of that ilk, because those guys would rumble, especially Ayala would rumble with him.
Why don't you just watch it on TV and give me the money?
Yeah, you got it. That's a good point. I'll tell you, I might do that.
Always come up with these good ideas. 20 seconds left in round 5. A beautiful shotgun jab by Carbajal. He just stuffed it to the head of Espinoza.
10 segundos.
Yeah.
Let's go. Breathe. Okay. Check his eye.
¿Cómo te sientes? Mira, no quiero que me baje la.
We see this left hand will come down, and that will leave an opening for the right to get over, which has been happening throughout this fight, and Carbajal will take advantage of it by nailing him with the right hand, and that's been pretty much the story throughout this fight.
Hay que hacer lo que hemos estado haciendo de arriba.
Nomás te quedas con el volado.
Abusado
con ese volado. Nomás está yendo abajo y volado.
Ya no quiere, mira, ya está jodido, ¿eh? Vamos.
Carbajal looking extremely focused. has had Espinoza backpedaling since the end of the first round around this large 20-foot ring. A lot of room to roam for these 218-pounders. Again, a beautiful jab by Carbajal, sticky and then following it up. And Espinoza on the retreat, and it's so difficult for a fighter to be effective going backward.
He was in the first couple of rounds primarily because he would stop, throw punches, then move, but he's not doing that now. Now mostly he's retreating in a survival mode in the right hand of Carbajal. It's redundant, but the fact is it continues to get there.
And now both eyes really beginning to swell up for Espinoza.
Fuera, fuera. There you go.
And it's not as if Carbajal changed his defense in any way. It's still just running in. It's just that Espinoza so concerned about Carbajal's attack, not able to counter him as he's coming in. Cruz Carbajal, to say he's a streaky fighter is the understatement of the century. He was 12-0-1, then he was 2-8, then 4-0, then 1-3, and now on a 5-straight win streak. So he's like some hitter in baseball who goes on again and off again.
23, 11, and 119 knockouts, making the second defense of his bantamweight belt. They call him Cucho, which means nice.
His mom gave him that nickname. I don't think she probably wasn't thinking he'd become a fighter because nice is not, there was a show called Captain Nice once and he was a hero.
And that's not something Espinoza is going through Espinoza's mind right now as well. This is not a nice man.
No, not inside the ring.
Carbajal throwing his entire repertoire, uppercuts, right hands, left hooks, jab. There's a right cross that missed, but he continues to just smother Locomotura, who has been relegated from express to local thanks to the hands of Carbajal.
An underrated part of what Cruz Carbajal, one point being taken for holding.
Hold it.
Well, as if things aren't tough enough for the challenger.
Let's go.
A point deducted.
It didn't feel like it was that dramatic, but I guess it looked that way to the ref.
Robert Bird seeing things a little differently.
And Robert's a good referee, so I'm sure he gave a warning to Espinoza. In fact, I thought I saw him give one. There's Espinoza trying the uppercut again on the inside. It was so effective early, but now just not able to get things in.
Segundo. Stop.
Espinoza showing a lot of heart. Two swollen eyes, and he's just getting batted around here by Carbajal.
We take a look at where ultimately the penalty was, the point was deducted for holding. Espinoza here hanging on, and I guess that comes after warnings by Robert Bird and the points deducted.
Yeah. Okay, defend himself. Okay, thank you.
And earlier tonight here in Las Vegas, the arrival of Evander Holyfield, the four-time heavyweight champ, the Ultimate Warrior, ready to answer the call one more time. He seems very cool and relaxed. No other fighter of his generation has engaged in as many crossroads fights, refuses to make concessions to his age, relying on his confidence, optimism, and faith. And after going toe-to-toe with behemoths like Bo and Lewis, facing a smaller fighter tonight in James Toney, a different type of challenge, one that Holyfield is tackling not with desperation, but with focus and purpose.
On November 15th, it will be the 19th anniversary of his first pro fight. Can you imagine that?
I remember being there at Madison Square Garden against Lionel Bayard.
Yeah.
How about your unofficial tally?
I have Carbajal ahead in this fight, and I have him ahead by 4 points.
As we hit the halfway point, this scheduled for 12 rounds for the WBO bantamweight title. But that's exactly what we would expect from Evander the Real Deal Holyfield. Focus and purpose.
And right now, Carbajal has both those things as he continues to push ahead against Espinoza, who now has swelling around both eyes.
Here's how Press Row sees it, Al. Carlos is from the Orange County Register, Michael from the Chicago Trib, and Steve L.A. Times.
Good cross-section.
Yes.
Geographically of the country.
Of American journalism. We approach the halfway mark of round 7. Cruz Carbajal, the champion in the green, he has just taken complete command since the first round. I think it's probably the only round I'd give Espinoza, personally.
I agree with that.
Owner of that dollar I slipped across the table had anything to do with it.
You know what? Every time you tip me, I agree with you. That's so far
it's working well.
In our embryonic relationship together here on Showtime, that's been one of the nice perks, as a matter of fact. Occasionally I go out and buy a Dairy Queen with that stuff.
Now I gotta go get a thesaurus. You keep using big words like that. Under a minute, round 7, and it's been all Carbajal. Casamayor Corrales coming up next, and then of course the main event, Holyfield versus Tony. Man, is that a curious battle. Really looking forward to it.
Really is interesting, and something that we would not have expected to see some years ago. Nobody could have theorized that would take place.
Steve Farhood put it best in our meeting the other day. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Espinoza now is very much in a survival mode. Much more, of course, than in those early rounds. And Robert Byrd taking a long, hard look at the swelling. Oh, clash of heads, apparently. That was accidental, creating more of a problem. Just what Espinoza needs.
He's down on points. He's got both eyes swollen. Now a head clash. Turning out to be a difficult night for Espinoza. After a terrific start. Well, we saw Holyfield make his way into the arena earlier. Here's James Toney, who races for the biggest challenge of his long and illustrious career. Blowing kisses. You know, he's got that gruff exterior, but he's really a nice guy.
Showtime, baby.
Right, baby. Showtime.
Lights out.
Yeah, the champ in the house. Ain't never scared.
Former middleweight champ. Now fighting as a heavyweight, looking to compete as a world-class heavyweight. 15 years ago, we were saying the same thing about Holyfield.
The heads came together. It was ruled an accidental clash of heads, and in fact, it was that. It looked like really Cruz Carbajal might get the worst of it, and yet it was Espinoza, who already has swelling around those eyes, that was damaged more severely by the clash of heads. And there you get a really good example, or good look at the swelling.
Scheduled for 12 for the WBO bantamweight title. It's round 8. Man, Tony really looked cool and composed. This is a huge fight. Reborn after his thrilling win over Gerado. And he risks a great deal in taking on Holyfield. All right. Carbajal, nice left hook followed by a super right hand upstairs. Carbajal canvassing Espinoza. Continues to make him go back.
Of course, Espinoza has been stopped on 2 occasions.
Oh, what an uppercut with the right hand by Carbajal, his best punch of the night. But what a chin and what great heart by Espinoza. Robert Byrd looking on very intently. Could be nearing the end. Oh, another heavy straight right hand by Carbajal. What is holding Espinoza up?
And wouldn't you know, it's a left hook to the body that has probably ended this fight.
That will be it. It's over. What a series of hurtful shots by Cruz Carbajal to end matters in the 8th. And right away, Dr. Margaret Goodman is on the scene. Espinoza is really, really out of it.
Well, that left hook to the body by Carbajal cut him just perfectly, and I'm sure the breath has been knocked out of him. That's part of the reason why he's down and why he's having so much trouble.
The sequence began with a stupendous right uppercut.
Bring it on, Paulie. Come on, Paulie Ayala. Come on.
And you can hear them saying, bring it on, Paulie Ayala. We previewed that earlier.
Already spin doctoring, and the fight's only been over about 35 seconds.
Exactly, looking to the near future.
Good fight.
Meanwhile, Espinoza still flat on his back. And, precautionary.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite clear. I mean, that was a punch that took his wind away. I mean, really, it just hit him just perfectly.
Right in the shoulder.
Shades of gentleman Jim Corbett and Bob Fitzsimmons. And
we called that, didn't we?
We did, yes. We were there.
But seriously, let's hope that everything's okay for Espinoza. Seems to be all right as he sits up with the help of the ringside physician, Dr. Goodman. One of the best.
A wonderful performance by Cruz Carbajal. And you know what made it, I think, better was Espinoza didn't come here to lose this fight. Gerado Espinoza fought 3 very good rounds in this fight. He really did. But Carbajal was able to turn things around and then use the pressure to get to him. And we'll share some memories of how this fight ended. The barrage from Cruz Carbajal that started the problem. The uppercut, which we hadn't seen too much of from Carbajal, though it's a very good punch for him, and continued to go to the body, as we saw, and that would be foreshadowing for what would come in just a few moments after that. Then later in the round, Carbajal continuing the pressure and using the jab. That's a great arsenal of punches. He doesn't forget to jab his way in, even though he's pressuring the other fighter. And there's the left hook to the body. It landed just perfectly, and that was it for Espinoza. And this will show you the body punch and the leverage that Carbajal got on this punch. He's able to bend, even while he's running in. He gets great leverage on this punch. Oh my, I don't know if you can land a body shot in a better position than that. And it sent Espinoza down. And even in super slow motion, we realize that Carbajal is relentless with his pressure. He never gave Espinoza a moment to recover. And ultimately, what was one of many good body shots that Carbajal landed spelled the end.
Not what you'd call a Kodak moment for Gerado Espinoza, but it was for Cruz Carbajal, who continues his dramatic turnaround, retaining his belt, his second successful defense, goes to 24-11-1, 20 knockouts, 6 in a row after losing 3 straight. Gerado Espinoza, hearing it from the crowd as he gets up, suffers his second defeat in the last 3 fights and drops to 27-5. And
I think if Cruz Carbajal wanted to make a statement that he's a bantamweight champion to be reckoned with, I think he did it tonight.
Let's get the official word from Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the time of 1 minute 7 seconds in round number 8. A referee in charge, Robert Bird, stops the contest. He's the winner by way of technical knockout and still the WBO bantamweight champion of the world, Cruz Cucho Carbajal.
So Cruz Carbajal retains his title with an 8th round technical knockout over Gerado Espinoza. And we'll see if indeed Paulie Ayala is next. He's called out Ayala. He's called out Johnny Tapia as well. Let's take a look at some numbers. It became a lopsided fight. It was pretty obvious there are the judges' scorecards. C.J. Ross, Clark Sammartino, and Dalby Shirley had it convincingly for the champion, and then the press row scores saw it this way. Pretty similar. So Carbajal all the way. Our venue tonight, the Mandalay Bay Event Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. The fans settling in, getting ready, gearing up for more boxing. It's still early. Expecting a late walk-up crowd for tonight's marquee matchup. Up next from the Vegas Strip, a fight that is worthy of its own headline status. It'll be slippery southpaw Joel Casamayor set to square off with hard-punching Diego Corrales. And then later, an intriguing affair as Evander Holyfield will meet James Toney in a curious heavyweight showdown. For now, back to Nick Charles.
Well, for most of his career, James Toney has performed on the edge of the spotlight, never quite fulfilling his dreams of superstardom. But in tonight's unlikely matchup, a win against a 4-time heavyweight champion, could redefine his career and elevate his place in boxing history.
Over the last 7 years, 8 years, I fought the best in the cruiserweight division, and I've beaten them badly. But once again, people say I'm still an underachiever, and it's like this is my credibility, what I've done in the past. But right now, the only thing I can do right now is to make up for it by fighting the big fights in the heavyweight division in great shape and just close a lot of people's mouths. You know, I'm not no running fighter. I'm not no boxer. I'm not gonna turn around from nobody. I don't know how to do that. That's for cowards. That's for guys running around the ring with pink skirts and tutus on. You know what I'm saying? That's not me. I stay there and fight. I want blood. I think Vander's a great fighter. One of the greatest fighters of all time. You can't knock what he's done. You know, he's the first man to come from the cruiserweight division and win heavyweight championships. He's fought the best fighters out there. He's never turned down nothing. We put fight in a dictionary, his face should pop up right next to mine. I'm the best fighter he's ever fought. You know, hands down. Skill-wise, nobody has better skills than me. I can fight anybody, anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter to me where. I think this fight is just the beginning. This is a motivating fight for me. I want to fight the Lennox Lewis, the so-called best heavyweights out there. Because Lennox is big and, you know, and British and all, that doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean nothing at all. The bigger the harder they fall. And Lennox is a great fighter, great champion. He's proved himself. It's time to move up. Get out the way. I'm coming through.
Nick Charles with Steve Farhood. Steve, we always hear James Toney. He talks junk. He talks reality. He is unafraid. But big difference when a guy gets to his biggest fight in 10 years, maybe his biggest payday, happens in Super Bowls. Some teams show up and say, I'm grateful to be here. I've done enough. I'll cash the check and do my best. Others say, I have attitude. What do you sense in James Toney?
No, James Toney has attitude, Nick. You judge a fighter, you judge what he's about by what happens in the ring. James Toney, almost without exception, has always been a warrior in the ring. Steve Albert before described him as a nice guy, and he is, but he always has that edge about him, like he's looking for a fight, whether he has one scheduled in the ring or not. And that edge is not going to disappear because he's fighting a heavyweight tonight, and it's not going to disappear because he's fighting a legend.
Thing I do know, he is excited about this fight, sometimes almost wired over the top. It seems I was in the gym this morning. Who was there? James Toney doing about 1,000 crunches on the ab machine. That was then. This is now. Toney's in his locker room now with our Jim Gray.
All right. Thank you very much, Nick, here with James Toney. Just got his instructions from Jay Nady, who will be the third man in the ring tonight. He cautioned you and warned you about Evander leading with his head and a butt. Is that something of a concern for you?
Not at all. I'm a complete professional. I know what to do. I'm not going to cry about it if it happens. I'm going to continue to beat on him.
James, you weighed in at 217 pounds. A lot of people coming into this fight thought that speed would be an advantage. Now you're to within 2 pounds of Evander Holyfield. Did you negate your speed by bulking up so much?
Never. I'm faster now than I was when I was a little lighter. So, you know, only thing I can tell people out there is watch the fight, see how well, see how fast my hands move.
Mm-hmm. Why did your trainer, Freddie Roach, want you to come in around 205?
That's just him. I gotta do what's best for my body, not for everybody else.
Is there any one in particular thing that you're concerned about with Evander Holyfield?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. I'm a complete fighter. I don't worry about nothing. I'm born to fight. They made the fight. They trained to fight. That's the difference between me and everybody else out there.
Now, you have fought several heavyweights, but nobody of this distinction. Did you ever think that you would be fighting somebody like Evander Holyfield?
If they give me the opportunity, and it happens.
So you've wanted to be a heavyweight?
Always, all my life. You know, this is just nothing. It's ease. Everybody think it'll be hard for me to do. It's nothing. Once you can fight anybody, no matter how big they are, how tall they are. It doesn't matter.
All right, James. Good luck tonight.
I'm ready.
All right. James Toney, pretty confident, ready to roll. Back to you, Nick.
Thank you, Jim. Very confident, Steve, as we expected. Question for you. Will he really go to war, as he says?
I don't have any doubt that he will go to war. In my mind, the question, Nick, is not will he go to war, it's can he go to war effectively against Holyfield. Holyfield's been a top heavyweight now for, 16 years? It seems almost unbelievable. Of course, at one point there was questions about him fighting heavyweight.
So should he go to war?
Well, I don't think he can fight any other way. He's no dancer in the ring. He's no Chris Bird. He has to go to war. If he doesn't have the guns, he doesn't have the guns, but he'll go down trying.
Yes, he will. It's a battle of two guys who aren't fighting for a title tonight, but who are lining themselves up, and they can't afford to stumble, Tony and Holyfield. Meanwhile, a battle of former champions coming up next who know victory